One has to be light to oneself.
Go on.
And you cannot possibly depend on anyone. You cannot have light from another. It cannot be lit by whoever it is, God or by saviors and Buddhas. It cannot be handed down to you, to another. One has to be totally, completely alive to oneself. It doesn't mean selfishly. It doesn't mean egotistic, egocentric activity. On the contrary, to be light oneself means the understanding of oneself so completely that in that understanding there is no distortion of what one is.
Well, do you mean then that none of us needs any of this teaching handed down to us, that we can all discover these things for ourselves?
I'm sure, it is certain that every man is the story of mankind. Obviously. And if one knows how to read oneself, the story of oneself, which is very complex, which needs a great deal of attention, a mind that doesn't distort facts, what is actually seen. That such an attentive, sensitive awareness, that's easy to cultivate, easy to have, then one can read about oneself without any illusion.
But there's a fine line, I think, separating what you say about that attention from what we do most of the time, which is to concentrate on ourselves.
Oh, that is merely egocentric activity.
Well, indeed, of course it is, but then we are egocentric.
So, as we are egocentric, and that's creating havoc in the world, why don't we realize the mischief that we are bringing?
Well, that's a question I should ask you. Why don't we realize it?
Either we are totally indifferent to the world, what is happening, or we are so consumed by our own desires and pleasures, it doesn't matter what happens, as long as we fulfill.
But must we not even seek happiness?
No, happiness is a side effect. It's not an end in itself. After all, sir, human consciousness is the consciousness of mankind, right? It's not my consciousness or your consciousness, it's the consciousness of humanity. Yes. And the content of that consciousness is put there by thought. Greed, envy, ambition, all the conflicts, misery, suffering, extraordinary sense of isolation, loneliness, despair, anxiety, all that's there in our consciousness. Belief. I believe in God. I believe in this. So faith and belief brings about atrophy to the brain.
But do you reject belief itself?
Oh yes.
Do you?
Completely. Because if you look,
you don't leave much standing, do you, Krishnaji?
Huh?
You don't leave much standing, do you, Krishnaji?
Of course not. That's what I said. One has to be free of all the illusions that thought has created to see something really sacred which comes about through right meditation.
And how right meditation?
Yeah.
And what is right meditation? You suggest that there is also a wrong meditation.
Oh, all the meditations that are being put forward now by the gurus and all the rest of it is nonsense.
Why?
Because first you must put the house in order.
But isn't this the way to put the house in order?
You see, that's wrong. They think by meditating you put the house in order.
Yes. No?
No.
Not so?
No. On the contrary, you must put the house in order, which is house, you understand?
Yes.
House in order. Then otherwise if you don't, it becomes an escape. Unless one puts the house in order, which is no fear, the understanding of pleasure, the ending of sorrow. From that arises love, compassion, intelligence. And the process to that, we'll call it process for the moment, is part of meditation. And then to find out whether thought can ever stop, which is time has to have a stop. And then out of that comes the great silence. It's in that silence alone that one can find that which is sacred.
Well, but to stop thought is, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sure this is true of most people, the most difficult thing in life is to turn off, switch off the mind.
And no, this is again rather complex. Who is it that switches off the mind?
I suppose what I have to say is it's the mind itself. Switching itself off, which I suppose is impossible.
Now, when one realizes the observer is the observed, the controller is the controlled, the experiencer is the experienced, when one actually realizes it, not intellectually, verbally, but profoundly, then that very perception stops it. It's like seeing danger. If you see danger, you move away from it.
Yes.
So if you see the danger, quotes, if you see the danger of conflict, for example, the danger, the psychological danger of a human being who is perpetually in conflict, he may meditate, he may do all kinds of things, conflict will go on.
How can we combine all the pressures of the mundane around us?
I wouldn't do anything under pressure.
You wouldn't? I wish I
refuse. No, both intellectually and psychologically, I refuse to be under pressure. I don't mind starving, I don't mind having no job, but I refuse to be put in that position.
But you see, this is really what I meant when I said, what is the secret? Because you say you will never be put under pressure, and indeed I can see and understand that. One has to look at you, or read you, or listen to you to know that. But what about the rest of us? How do we get out from under this burden?
If we all say we won't be under pressure...
We all are under pressure all the time.
No, we won't be.
How can we refuse it? I mean, how can we live in the real world? The job is waiting for us. We're going to be late. We've got an appointment.
Now, just that brings up whether society can be changed.
Well, cannot society be changed?
I mean, no, whether society can be changed.
Yes.
The communists tried it. The socialists are trying it. Various systems are trying to change society.
Yes.
Now, what is society? It's an abstraction of our personal relationship. Now, if our personal relationship changes radically, society changes. But we are not willing to change. We admit wars, we accept all this terrible state of existence.
Yes, we do. We do. How do we stop it?
No, revolt against it.
But this...
Not revolt in the sense, become a communist, or all that kind of stuff. That's psychologically revolt against it.
But that presumably must be each individual. This is not something that can be done collectively.
No, well, again, what do you mean by individual?
Well, we're all independent in separate personalities.
Are we?
Well, aren't we?
I doubt it.
Go on.
We are not individuals. We are the result of million years of collective experiences, memories, all that. We think we are individuals. We think we are free. We are not. To us, freedom means choice. Choice means confusion. You don't choose if you are clear.
You said once, one of your most striking phrases, I remember, that your purpose was to set man free.
Yes. Sounds, yes.
It's the most important thing in the world, after all. But how do you go about that? How do we set ourselves free? Because presumably we have to set ourselves free, is what you meant. How to show us how we set ourselves free. How do we set ourselves free?
To be aware of our conditioning.
But our condition may be terrible, miserable, wretched.
No. What is our conditioning?
Well, that varies from individual to individual, surely.
I doubt it.
No?
No. We are conditioned by fear.
Yes.
Which is common to all mankind.
Mm.
We are conditioned by our pleasure, which is common to all mankind. We are conditioned by our anxieties, by our loneliness, by our desperate uncertainty. All these are the factors that condition the mind.
And can we simply put them aside?
No. Who is that? You put a wrong question then. That if one sees there is consequences of all these conditionings, consequences, the pain, all the rest of it, naturally it stops. There is no entity which says, I must stop it. That is intelligence.
And then we are free?
Now, what do you mean by free?
Well, what I mean by it is to be rid of these fears, these anxieties, these impossible desires,
yes.
Vain yearnings.
That's right.
Now,
that is freedom.
It certainly seems so to me.
Unless there is that freedom, you cannot be like to yourself. Unless there is that freedom, meditation means meaningless.
You see, everybody thinks it's the other way around.
I know.
You reverse this, don't
but
you?
That is a fact.
You see, we think of the systems, the beliefs, the faith, the work as a means to getting to this state of freedom. You start with the state of freedom.
Belief brings atrophies the brain. If you keep on repeating as they do, your brain is atrophied.
Then can we just do it by one great leap into freedom?
Yes. That is, to have insight into all this.
Instantaneously?
Yes.
And any of us can do it?
Anybody who is attentive, who is inquiring, exploring, trying to understand this terrible confusion of life.
At any age?
No. You are putting, no, of course a baby can't do it.
No.
A child can't do it.
But we don't have to spend a lifetime in practicing.
Forgotten, of course not. Then death is waiting for you.
It's waiting for all of us.
For all of us.
Thank you very much, Krishnamurti.